Welcome to the Building Point Australia SketchUp channel, and welcome to Go Beyond SketchUp. Go Beyond SketchUp is a series of videos with content created for the SketchUp users wanting more out of native tools. Go Beyond SketchUp will be divided in chapters, and in each chapter, we will talk about different topics from back to basics to looking and understanding the SketchUp ecosystem. So let's go back to basics, and in particular, the Axis tool. Okay, the Axis tool is not a drawing tool, it's not an editing tool. The Axis tool sets the space you're gonna work with. When you start a new file in SketchUp, you're gonna find these three lines, the red, the green, and the blue. Those are your axes. So that sets the space in which you're gonna start drawing. The Axis tools by default are red, as in X-axis, green, as in the Y-axis, and blue as in the Z-axis. Just as a side note, you can change the colors of those axes if you need to, or if you want to, but by default, you can have those colors. If you want to change it, you can do so by going to Windows, Preference, and you can see in here, you can change the colors of the axes. I do recommend to leave them by default in those colors, but it's entirely up to you. The Axis tool is located under Tools, that's for both PC and Mac. The Tools, Axis tool, and can also be found in the large tool set. So if you don't have your large tool set, just remember for Windows, you can find it under View, Toolbars, and Large tool set. Or if you're on a Mac, you can find it under View, Tool Palettes, Large tool set. And then you'll find the large tool set in there. And in here, you can see the Axis tool right there. Once you start drawing elements in SketchUp, those elements are gonna be aligned to this set of coordinates. So let's say if you want to draw a line, for instance, you can align it to your red, to your green, or to your blue axis, and then you can see how the line changes colors. That means that in this instance, that line that I'm drawing is parallel to the red axis. So when you're drawing on axis, that's fine. That's no problem at all. Whatever you draw is aligned to that set of axes. Now, the issue will come when you find things like this. When you find elements that are off axis, like in this instance, you have an element that is rotated, and not just that, but also have this face that is completely off axis. So how can I draw things aligned to these faces or aligned to the direction of that element? Well, you can certainly use inferencing, but there's a much easier way to do that, and that's just setting up your axis. So you just have to go to axis, and you can pick a point, and then once you pick a point, that's your origin point. And then you're gonna be asked to place your red axis, which obviously you will pick it to something that is relevant to what you want to do. So if we want to do something on that face, I will align that axis on that edge, and that's get locked in place. Then I have to select the next axis, which will be there. And once you set those, the third axis will place automatically perpendicular to the two that I have already placed. So once you've done that, notice that everything that I'm gonna, anything that I start drawing, it'll be aligned to that set of coordinates. If you want to go back to your original placement, you just have to right click and reset and see how the origin and your axis go back to where it was when you first started your file. Notice that if you context click, right click, you get a different set of options. So if you click on your axis, you've got all these different options, different to if you click anywhere else. So you have the option to place, which is what we just did, activate the Axis tool. You also have the option to move. You want to move it, you can click on the axis, right click, and you can move. Let's say you want to move the red axis by 200 mil, enter. So you know that that distance from the origin, initial origin to that is 200 mil. You can reset, go back to the original point. You can also align to a view, and that's a better way to, let's say I want to draw something aligned to this face. Basically what you have to do is just select that face, right click, align axis, and those axes as you can see, will align to that face. Another option that you have in here is to hide. If you don't want to see the axis for any particular reason, then you can do so. And again, you can get them in view, axis. There is a modifier key for the axis tool. That modifier tool is Command on Mac or Alt if you're on Windows. So let's see what that means. Once you choose the origin, just pick the point, click, and notice that once I set the origin, the axis that is following me is the red axis. But I can modify that. I'm on Windows, so if I press the Alt key, see how now the green axis is the one that is following me around. If I click it again, it's the blue, and so on and so forth. So just again, depending on what you're doing, you have that option to just pick or choose the axis that you want to set up first. Now, another thing to consider is that the location of your axis, it'll impact the way in which you can modify your elements. And I explained that in a little bit more. Let's say here, I've got two different elements. They all have been drawn based on this set of axes. And notice that once I group them, whether I group them or make them a component, there's a bounding box around them. So that bounding box is aligned to this set of axes, which means that if I wanted to scale, for instance, that scale option will be aligned to those axes, but also it's gonna make things a little bit more difficult, because if I wanna, let's say, make this bigger, it's gonna behave in a way that is not easy because of that bounding box around it. But if I go in here into this one and set my axis like we've done before, then my bounding box is aligned to my object, which means that if I want to scale, modify that element, is going to be much easier because that bounding box will align to the direction of my element. Another thing that is very useful is when you import plans for other platforms or even images, or in this instance, I'm gonna draw this plan. This is an image. This is not a DXF or DWG or any other file from any platform. It's just an image. But notice that there's a lot of elements that are completely off axis. So in order to draw things and to make things easier, you can create different scenes and assign different axes to different scenes. And if you look at these two scenes that I have in here, you can see they're different in the sense that in this scene, I have this set of axis, and everything I draw, it'll be aligned to that set of axes. But if I go to my other scene, I've got a different set of axes which allow me to draw a line to that set of axes. So basically, it's just a way to be more productive rather than start changing every time you access if you encounter situations where there's different angles or walls in different angles or elements in different directions. So you can set up your scenes with different set of axes. So that concludes our first video of this series. If you liked it, go ahead and click like below. And if you haven't subscribed to our channel, please do so. We're gonna create content every single week in order to improve your drawing abilities with the SketchUp. So I hope you like it, and please leave a comment. See you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.